So, you dropped $1,500 on an EV optimized set of tires. The dealer swore that they would add 50 miles of extra range, give you a quieter ride, the whole package. 6 months later, you're getting maybe 10 extra miles on a good day. And in the rain, you're white knuckling it because these things slide around like you're on ice. Does that sound familiar? Well, if it does, you got played, and let me show you why. Welcome back to Jim's EV Adventures. I'm Jim, and today we're continuing our video series about tires, and I'm answering all your questions from my previous videos with history and math, and those videos are listed below, so you can watch them if you want to. Why am I doing this? Because the tire industry has convinced millions of EV owners that low rolling resistance EV-only tires are some kind of magic bullet. But spoiler alert, they're not. Here's the thing they don't tell you. Yes, low rolling resistance tires have gotten better, but the marketing is wildly misleading. You've probably seen ads for the latest generation of EV tires boasting 25 to 30% better rolling resistance compared to previous models of tires. And that's moving from Generation 4 to Generation 5, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. It sounds huge, right? Like you're getting 25 to 30% more range. But here's the reality check. That 30% better refers to an improvement in the tire's hysteresis coefficient. That's a lab measurement of how much energy the tire absorbs as it rolls. It's not a 30% improvement in range. In the real world, going from the Generation 4 to Generation 5 lower rolling resistance tires with that advertised 30% better rolling resistance coefficient, they actually give you, wait for it, a 3.89% improvement in rolling resistance. And since rolling resistance is only about 20% of your total energy losses, that 3.89% rolling resistance improvement translates to just 0.78% actual range improvement. And on a typical 300-mile range EV, that's just about 2.3 extra miles at best. See that? 30% better in the lab doesn't mean 30% better on the road. Why is there such a massive disconnect? Because rolling resistance, again, only accounts for about 20% of your total energy losses. You've also got aerodynamics, vehicle weight, powertrain efficiency, climate control, and most importantly, your driving style all eating into your battery. So even a significant improvement in that 20% slice only makes a small dent in the overall pie. So even if you cut it by 3.89%, you're only improving your total efficiency by about 0.78%. That's the math that they do not show you in their advertisements. As I said, I've talked about all this in previous videos, links below, and I want you to go watch those. But here's where it gets dangerous, literally. To make tires roll easier, manufacturers use a harder rubber compound. Harder rubber equals less friction, and less friction equals longer stopping distances, especially in wet conditions. So let me show you what the 2025 tests actually found. That number you see is from real-world testing by Tire Rack and Consumer Reports in 2025. EV-specific lower rolling resistance tires stopped 15 to 25 feet longer in wet compared to quality regular all-season tires. That's up to 2 car lengths. That's the difference between stopping before an intersection and T-boning someone. And here's the kicker. That 25-foot penalty buys you maybe 2.3 extra miles of range, again, at best. Is that trade worth it? For most people driving in real weather conditions, rain, sleet, wet leaves, the answer is absolutely not. I can tell you it doesn't make a difference for me here in Florida. I'm not going with lower rolling resistance. I need the grip because it rains cats and dogs here. There's a point where chasing lower rolling resistance becomes an actual safety liability. And a lot of these EV optimized tires cross that line in 2025. They prioritized your range anxiety over your actual safety. Now, let's talk about those improvements the tire companies love to brag about. Our latest model is 25 to 30% better than our previous tire in rolling resistance. Sounds impressive. But again, let's zoom out and take a look at the whole picture of the low rolling resistance tire evolution. What you'll see is a classic case of diminishing returns. Now, I've went back and tracked real-world range gains over 5 generations of lower rolling resistance tires on a 300-mile EV, and the pattern is very clear. Now, keep in mind, rolling resistance became a big deal back in the 1980s. So from generation 0 to 1, 2, and even 3, we're talking about gas mileage. And those improvements were pretty significant. But now we're getting into Gen 4, Gen 5, and even Gen 6 tires. The curve has changed. The first jump from Gen 0 to Gen 1 would have given us a solid 5.7 extra miles of range. But again, that was before EVs were in the picture, because gas mileage did matter in the 1980s too. And that was a decent leap. But then Gen 1 to Gen 2, 4.6 miles, still good but less, and it keeps dropping, 3.6 miles, then 2.9 miles. And that much hyped Generation 4 to Generation 5 improvement, the one they market as 30% better rolling resistance, that only netted us an additional 2.3 miles. And this is where we are now. This is the law of diminishing returns in action. It's iterative improvements. We've already picked the low-hanging fruit. Tire engineers are doing incredible work, but they're battling something known as physics. You can't make rubber frictionless and still have it grip the road. Each subsequent improvement, while technically impressive in the lab, translates to smaller and smaller real-world gains. The marketing wants you to focus on the 30% better lab number, but the reality is the actual range benefit is shrinking with every new generation, and you can't win against physics. All right, let's blast 4 big piles of bunk real quick. Bunk pile number 1. EV-specific tires are mandatory. No, they're not. Any XL-rated tire can handle EV weight and torque. I've already proven that in several of my previous videos. The 2025 tire rack test proved non-EV performance tires work great and even sometimes better. Now let's talk bunk pile number 2. Will they pay for themselves in electricity savings? Well, again, let's do the math. These EV optimized tires often cost $200 to $400 more than regular tires. And for that premium, you're going to get about 2.3 miles of extra range at best. And on a 300-mile EV, that's a 0.78 efficiency gain. And if you drive 12,000 miles a year, your EV gets 4 miles per kilowatt hour. You're using 3,000 kilowatt hours annually. And a 0.78% savings is about 23.4 kilowatt hours per year. At 15 cents per kilowatt hour, that's a whopping $3.51 saved per year. You'll never break even before you wear the tires out, unless the tires last you 100,000 miles, which is highly doubtful. So 2.3 miles for $400 more. That's the deal they're selling you. Bunk pile number 3. EV tires are always quieter. Well, sure. They add foam to the inside of some to dampen the noise, sure. But top-tier regular tires like the Continental DWS 06 Plus are nearly as quiet and they don't sacrifice grip. I'm going to do another video about sound because some of you don't seem to understand that while a 3 decibel increase is doubling the sound, your human ear can barely discern that. But that's another video for another time. Now, bunk pile number 4, more range is always better. Not if it costs you safety, and not if it costs you $400. And definitely not if it's only 2.3 miles of range increase per charge. Just don't make sense. So what should you actually do? Well, here's my no bunk buying guide. Step number 1, know your priorities. Do you live in Seattle where it rains 9 months a year, or here in Florida where it rains 2 inches in 15 minutes? Well, then wet grip really matters more than that 2.3 miles of range. If you live in Arizona and drive like a grandma, well, maybe lower rolling resistance could make sense, and they might actually work for you. Number 2, check the real tests. Go to TireRack.com, DiscountTire.com, TireReviews.com, and look at wet braking distance. That's most important for safety. Dry handling, if you like spirited driving, and I know some of you do. Noise levels, and of course projected tread life. And then look at the efficiency/range impact. And most of these sites give you that information now. Number 3, compare EV versus non-EV side by side. And I'm going to give you a real-world example. For a Tesla Model 3, you'll see the Hankook Ion Evo, EV specific, versus the Continental Extreme Contact DWS 06 Plus, a regular tire. The Continentals cost $100 less per set. They stop 15 feet shorter on the wet roads and only give you a negligible amount of range loss compared to the 2.3 miles you'd gain in the Evo. And that's a no-brainer for most people. If you're only going to save about $20, maybe $30 in charging over the life of the tire, why spend that extra $100? Just asking for a friend. And then number 4, here's some free hacks that work better than expensive tires. Want more range? Well, do this instead. Pump your tires to the maximum PSI for your car. And for EVs, that's usually between 40 and 45 PSI. That alone will give you 5 to 10% more range, more than any tire upgrade. Now, I'm going to give you a real-world example. On my Bolt EV, the door placard says 35 PSI cold. I put on Nexen tires that are XL rated, and the original tires were only SL rated. And the Nexen tires have a much higher maximum PSI. I've kept the Nexen tires at 40 PSI cold the entire time I've owned them, and I have over 40,000 miles on these non-EV tires, with a few miles still left on them. They have outperformed the original Michelins that came on the Bolt EUV. The next thing you should do is rotate every 5,000 to 6,000 miles. EV tires do wear faster due to weight and torque, but only marginally faster. Also, get an alignment on your car at least once a year. Misalignment kills range and it kills your tires. And here's the most important thing you can do. Drive smoother. Jackrabbit starts waste energy and they shred your tires. These 4 things are free or cheap, and they'll save you more than spending $400 on magic EV tires. So the bottom line, the tire industry wants you to believe that EV optimized is a game changer. And it's really not. It's incremental improvements marketed as revolutionary breakthroughs. A 30% improvement in rolling resistance sounds huge, but again, it only translates to about 2.3 miles of extra range on a 300-mile EV, at best. And often, you're sacrificing your safety to get that extra range. For most EV owners, a quality regular all-season tire, XL rated from a reputable brand, will give you 99% of the efficiency you're already getting, better grip, longer life, and it will save you money. But most importantly, I want you to do your homework. Prioritize your safety over range anxiety, and don't let dealers scare you into overpriced rubber. What tires are you running? Drop your setup in the comments below. I'll try to reply. And if this saved you from wasting $1,400 or $1,500, hit the like button and subscribe for more EV bunk blasting. Drive safe, stay charged, and remember, the best tire is the one that stops when you need it to. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you out there or somewhere along the route from point A to point B. Safe driving, everybody. See you all real soon.